Welcome to the talk show, Lighting the Educational Flame, with your host, Marc Hoberman. The goal of this show is to provide a learning experience to people of all ages, with guests from various fields and academics, a wide range of industries, and insight into the many forms of art, athletics, and entertainment. We hope you enjoy the show. Today's episode brings both of Marc Hoberman's shows together. Susan Brender from The Susan Brender Show once again appears as part-time co-host, but her guest today is Marc Hoberman. Susan asks Marc about his shows as well as his memoir and many new exciting projects.
Hello, everybody. This is my friend and often my co-host on Lighting the Educational Flame. You can see Lighting the Educational Flame, our wonderful logo behind her, and she's going to ask me questions about life stories of Marc Hoberman. I thought long and hard about who do I want to question me about the new show. And Susan Brender, you won or you lost, depending on how you look at it.
Well, could I be more pleased than this? I mean, let me tell you something, Marc. It's been such a pleasure working with you. All the shows that we've done have had so much success. I'm just so pleased to have you on Lighting the Educational Flame.
Yes.
So we're going to talk.
It's half Lighting the Educational Flame. It's half Life Stories of Marc Hoberman.
That's right. That's right.
Today's show. So all good.
Okay. So let me just start and say, I want to thank you for being on this show because you have done so much. Let's talk about some of the things that you've done. You know, Marc Hoberman is an educational consultant, a best-selling author, and a motivational speaker. Marc founded Grade Success Education in 1995 and has since expanded his tutoring company to include online tutoring. Now, there's so many other things that he's done, educational videos. He's written a book. Marc is also a creator and a host of not one, but two shows, as you know now. Life Stories with Marc Hoberman is his new show, and I bet it's going to be a bigger success than Lighting the Educational Flame. So I want to thank you for being with me, Marc. It's terrific.
My pleasure.
So let's talk a little bit about Lighting the Educational Flame. How did you start that?
So to be honest, I started that after reading a book called Contact Marketing. And they said the best way to do motivational speaking in corporations and get the attention of high profile people is to have them as a guest on your show. So selfishly, I started Lighting the Educational Flame to interview people in corporate America about how they got their jobs, how they became successful, and quite honestly, to get my foot in the door. It started as an audio show. And to be honest, it came off of my being a guest, has to be 6 years now, on the Susan Brender Show.
Right.
And that was also an audio show. And I signed on with B. Davis from Sassy B Worldwide. Now for 3 years, my publicist and chief connector, if you will. And she listened to one of the shows. And she said, this should be a video show. I said, thank you. Not happening. I said, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I love teaching and all that, but I'll write, but I really don't want to do that. And she said, well, try it anyway. So we did it. And through the years, it got bigger and better. And you've been a co-host on Lighting the Educational Flame many times. And so it morphed into the video version of Lighting the Educational Flame. And you and I have done probably 15 shows together. I've done a total of over 60 shows on Lighting the Educational Flame. And that's what we still run that show, and that's on E360 TV and some other streaming platforms. And then it morphed into the second show, the additional show, Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. Very creative name, by the way.
That's what you say, but
yeah.
I think it's really true. The fact of the matter is that you were a teacher, okay? And you combined all these different things like writing a book, doing videos, and writing now doing life stories. Now, how did you combine all of this? I mean, it's a real big job to do.
That's a great question. I have to tell you, Susan, that I loved being a teacher for over 32 years, but I was one of those teachers who recognized that the most important lessons weren't academic. They were life lessons. They were respect. They were anti-bullying. There was humor. There was helping people have perseverance. And I retired kind of early. I was 56. I did have 32 years in, but I wanted to expand this because I really enjoyed touching the lives of 100 kids a year. That's how many kids I had, over 5 classes. But I felt the need and the desire to get the message out better and larger. And the show helps me do that. I do anti-bullying and overcoming adversity talks at middle schools, high schools, colleges. And that's what I really wanted to do. I totally enjoy teaching, but mine is education, as is lighting the educational flame, but it's not academic. It's not, hey, you're a math teacher. Now, as you know, we've interviewed teachers, authors, sports stars, celebrities, actors, but it's all for me. It's about sometimes too often we know the glory, but not the story. So I like to delve into the story and educate the viewers.
Well, that makes sense because you now have a show called Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. Now, this morphed, as you said, it morphed out of lighting the educational flame. Why did you decide to do this? Because it's another show and it's a lot of time. And boy, oh boy, I wonder what kinds of guests you're going to have because you've had so many wonderful guests. So tell me about Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Well, actually, it's just an expansion of lighting the educational flame. I really bounce off the energy of my guests, and many of them have said after the interview, you know, this is a very different interview. I'm not all about, so when's your next movie coming out? I'm about what struggles did you have? I'm about what advice would you give to teens who want to do what you did? And some of them have gotten much more emotional on my show, on some others. Maybe I'm delving more personally, but I really want to get that life story out of them. So while we're still doing Lighting the Educational Flame, Life Stories helps me expand the types of guests that we have and really get those stories out there, because I believe there are lessons to be learned in every show that we do.
What was your favorite? I know this is not really something we should talk about, but what was your favorite interview? Because you've had so many wonderful guests on. There's got to be one person that you could single out and tell us who he is or who she is. Excellent question.
There are many, but something I enjoyed most is because of the teacher in me. So I interviewed someone named Madison Taylor Baez. And my guest host that day was Liso Dingwall. Liso's an actor, singer, writer. And when he was a young actor, he's actually very famously known for being the character that shot and killed Omar, a main character on The Wire on HBO. And I had him as my co-host because I interviewed Madison Taylor Baez. She was only 10 years old then. And she's a powerhouse, and she sang the national anthem, I believe a Lakers game, and it went viral. And she spoke honestly about how tough the business is, and even at the age of 10, how much she learned from people, how demanding it is. People see the glory, but not the story. They think, oh, I'm in front of lights and I'm this big star. What I loved about that, quite honestly, is less than 2 weeks ago in June, she was in the audience of America's Got Talent, and she was singing during the commercial. They brought her up front. Simon said, you should audition now. Not only did she audition, but she got the golden buzzer. So she's the first person ever to get an audition out of the audience and then to win that golden buzzer at age 11 is unbelievable. What I loved about that story is that her father was her manager. He's a cancer survivor. And just the whole passion and emotionality of that. And the fact that I was signing off. And I was saying, thanks so much for being on the show. And she said, wait a minute, don't you want to hear me sing? And I said, is there someone in the world who said no to that question? Of course I want to hear you sing. And she sang and she almost blew the speakers out. So it was seeing someone so poised and so authentic was really letting me know, hey, youth is wasted on the young, but in this case, she really hit it out of the park. So that's one of my fondest memories. And you and I together did DC Glenn from Tag Team Whoop, there it is, and the Geico commercial Scoop, there it is, and he was great and a lot of fun. So there's some fond memories with some guests. I really enjoyed myself.
You know, during the pandemic, and I wasn't going to really ask you about this, but I think it's really important. During the pandemic, did you start to write things, or did you start to think about life stories and what you're going to make out of it? I mean, what happened during that particular time?
The pandemic hastened the creation of life stories, because if I've done a total of both shows, 75 interviews, one was in person in Los Angeles last year with a former student and well-known artist, Graham Goddard from Trinidad. He's a former student of mine. And you had no choice but to do these types of interviews, do it for Zoom. And it really went very well. And during that time, I wrote a book called The Resiliency Playbook with my co-author, Dr. Kasturi Henry. I just 2 days ago was in Washington, D.C. She was doing a keynote for an organization, and she invited me to come to the book signing and sign some books, her books she did on her own. And then we co-authored the book, The Resiliency Playbook. It was an international bestseller, and that was all done over 5 months or so during the pandemic. So I guess when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But I'm not the type to just sit around. The ADHD in me won't allow that. So I hit the ground running, and I'm looking to start doing some more in-person interviews. And the pandemic hurt a lot of people. It helped a lot of people. So it was really the genesis of the new show, Life Stories with Marc Hoberman.
Well, it's a very interesting thing that you're writing another book, or you have co-authored another book. I'd like our audience to know a little bit about it.
So the resilience. So I wrote a book about my being diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 16, but I didn't write the book till I was 54. So I really have the mantra: don't let your struggles define you. You define you. And it was picked up by LaRue Press, and so it was self-published. Then a publisher picked it up. We changed the name to Opportunity in Disguise: How I Defeated Adversity. And it's all about being resilient. And although my story is a book about overcoming adversity, it's not a book about epilepsy. It's a book about overcoming adversity. It's for people with gender issues, bullying issues. We're seeing with school shootings, suicides, fentanyl overdoses. A former student of mine, I co-authored his book, A Journey to Recovery, Speak Sobriety, Stephen Hill's book. And he's like burning it up, going crazy on the school circuit, speaking 100 times a year in schools and saving lives. And I said, I might have another book in me, but Cass Henry, after meeting her in Chicago, the first 15 minutes, she said, we have the same philosophy. Let's write a book together. And I didn't take it that seriously. I said, what a nice thing for somebody to say. But within 15 minutes and 5 months later, the book was done. And so it's about being resilient at school, at work, at home. And we created something called the Beacon Awareness Network to train people in corporate America, in schools, and just in life to persevere and to change your attitude, because you can't change how you feel about something, but you can change your attitude and what you do about those feelings. So that's how that book came about. And it all ties in with my life and education, with lighting the educational flame, with the authoring and co-authoring, and now the new show. So that's how I met you, was from writing a self-published version of the book. And that was, right. That came out, probably 6 years ago. So a lot has gone into this.
Yeah. Now you're doing so much, but you're still doing more. What more are you doing? Because I know that you say all the time, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going here, I'm going there, but there must be something that's on your mind, because you're starting Life Stories. So where do you get the time?
So it's interesting. Best way I can answer you is years ago, somebody said, if you want to take care of your budget, write down everything you buy. And I stopped doing that after 2 weeks because I was spending about $50 a week more than I was earning. So I said, hey, I'm not asking any more questions. So the mind doesn't stop. It's a blessing and a curse, but I'm always doing other things. I was blessed about probably a year and a half, a little more than a year and a half ago, to meet someone by the name of Janal Mecca Holmes. He is the CEO of Supernatural Inc. It's a multimedia company. And he and I did an anti-racism lesson. We were filmed in Manhattan, in New York City, out to a school in England, a middle school in England. And we did an anti-racism lesson, and we just filmed it to get little sound bites. And it was so powerful, Janal said, I think we could turn this into a documentary. And he did. And then we started to create EI, the Evolvolution Initiative, where we go into schools. We've gone into California. We've gone into Westbury, Long Island. We did the virtual in England. Janal has a lot of contacts, and part of his business is actually in Scotland. So blessed to be working with him and really doing some things. We're going to be in Los Angeles at Rexon Park, doing some lessons on overcoming adversity and leadership training. So it's always coming back to youth, because I believe that's where the magic is. You want to stop racism. You want to help with gun control. You have to educate young people, because nobody's born a racist. Nobody's born to do bad things. But I think that in the schools, as important as academics are, it's a shame that some great programs out there are cut because of budget cuts. Case in point, the Pack Drumline is a drum group from Chicago that serviced at-risk youth, and their budget was cut. And lo and behold, the leader, Perry Dante, decided to take it on his own and get funds, and they were on competitions. Well, 3 weeks ago, they were on America's Got Talent. And kudos to AGT, because it's hard to give up and relinquish that kind of control, who's interviewing your people and the people you audition. They allowed him to be on my show, and he was phenomenal. He was talking about overcoming adversity and helping at-risk youth. And that's what Janelle and I are doing with the Evolution Initiative. That's what Cass Henry and I are trying to do with the Beacon Awareness Network. So it always comes back to the youth. You can never spend too much time doing that. So I'm just in the throes of the beginnings of my new career. I just want to pay it forward. I want to make a change. And that's what all these things, that's the nucleus of all the things that I do.
Marc, I know our audience would like to listen to some of the life stories. How do they listen to it?
So life stories, I do have a YouTube channel, Lighting the Educational Flame. All of the interviews are up there on the YouTube channel. When it comes to life stories, I have some exciting things that I can't divulge all of it now, but I'm about to sign a distribution deal where it's going to be in a lot of places. But the best thing to do is to keep up with life stories with MarcHoberman.com. And we're going to start listing. Right now, it's on a station in Texas and in New Orleans. But we're constantly growing the audience. And there's an app called HVTV, and that has all the Lighting the Educational Flames. So life stories will be out there, but before we show it on YouTube, it's got to air brand new, because those are stations that are actually dropping commercials in it. Yeah. So that's great too. So if they keep up with the social media, and certainly the website will always be updating where they can go and start seeing the shows. We've only done 11 life story shows, but I'm getting some phenomenal guests coming up. I've had models, actresses. I've had some big people on the show. I have big people coming up. I have Michael Cooper from Confunction, and other artists are now doing. Bruno Mars has redone his song. So we're getting some really exciting people now moving forward. So great things ahead.
And if people want to get in touch with you, because there is so much that you can tell them and educate them, because you're an educational person. I mean, everything you do gives education to people and information that they need. So how do they get in touch with you?
There's a bunch of email addresses, but a really good one would be marc@marchoberman.com, spelled the way it is over here under my head over here with a C. Marc@marchoberman.com. Also, my tutoring agency is info@gradesuccess.com. So there's always ways to get in touch with me. I'm all over social media. I got TikTok, and half the things that I have young people do, because I don't know half these things I'm talking about, because you really have to keep up with this. But every 3 days, something new comes up, and that's above my pay grade. So I leave that to the youngsters.
Yeah. And you and I are on the same page with regard to that. So I want to thank you so much, Marc Hoberman, for being on Lighting the Educational Flame. I want to wish you lots of luck on Life Stories with Marc Hoberman. Everything that you do, I want to wish you the best. So thank you so much for being on this show today and telling us all about what's coming up.
Absolutely. Susan, thank you for being you. There's no one other than Susan Brender who I wanted to interview me about the new show. So thank you for being you. And I look forward to many new interviews with you on the other show, Lighting the Educational Flame. So it's Marc Hoberman, Life Stories of Marc Hoberman. Check it out. And thank you so much, Susan, for being here today.
You're welcome. And it's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Lighting the Educational Flame. To contact Marc Hoberman, email him at info@gradesuccess.com or visit him on social media through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you for watching Lighting the Educational Flame.